Hi everyone. Josh and I are going to go back and forth sharing our picks for top five New York City films, and there will probably be honorable mentions listed. Josh, say hi to everyone.
Hello, I am Joshua Alberto Gonzalez, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Sam.
I'm Sam Red. This is Red Carpet Talk. Let's get into it. Comments let us know if you can hear us clearly. Um, we should do top five picks first, and then we can do honorable mentions later on. Do you want to do your first pick?
All right, so first one, number five. This one was a tough one because this director specifically has a lot of greats. It is a Woody Allen film, and it is actually not Annie Hall. This was a tough one because at first I said, what is the best written Woody Allen movie? And I was only going to pick one from each director in my list. And for about 2 weeks, I said, I'm going to pick Hannah and her sisters. And then I watched his filmography again, and I said, I have to go with Manhattan at number five, which
Okay.
will be controversial to some because of the implications of the main character dating a 17-year-old and him explaining that he's essentially 45 and competed for father. Uh, yeah, with with the cinematography by Gordon Willis in the beginning of the movie, it's pretty fantastic and shows a vibrant Manhattan.
I mean, Woody Allen, for better or for worse, did define the vision of New York. I've seen a few of his films. There's certain gaps in my knowledge, but I've seen like Annie Hall, and I mean, as much as like I want to not like him as a director, I do like his movies. Annie Hall, I watched recently for the first time, and that was one where I feel like he just gets the neuroticism of like New Yorkers really well in that movie. So I'm guessing Manhattan has a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, in a completely different way, because when the film starts, he's talking to a group of friends, and he's talking about his ex-wife, and then they go, "Oh, your first one? No, no, my second ex-wife." So you already know that he's insane because he can't have a stable relationship, and the one stable relationship he has in this movie is with 17-year-old, which, yikes.
Yeah. Um, what makes you like Manhattan more than like Annie Hall or like the other movie you mentioned earlier?
I think I think it's shot better, actually. I think at this point he's got his flow, his structure down, and this is actually phase two of Woody Allen's career because phase one was mostly stuff like Bananas, uh, Life and Death was the beginning where he became more existential. I think this is about the time that he really got into what I would call his Fellini existential period. And his repertoire with Diane Keaton in this movie is so on point after this. I think this is right after Manhattan, which won Best Picture in '77. And this is '79.
You're saying right after
Uh,
Annie Hall.
yeah, so he's already understood his character, that neurotic character that he's been known for, and I think it's better. I really think it's a better written movie, as the character dialogue is so funny and so witty. There's one part where he and displays Manhattan upper esque, intellectuals so perfectly in this movie. They're talking about films, and uh, Diane Keaton's character goes because they have a conversation about famous artists who are in the Academy of the Overrated. And she goes, Ingmar Bergman. And his friend goes, oh, don't talk about Ingmar Bergman. And then Woody Allen stops and goes, Ingmar Bergman's the only genius in cinema right now. And he goes on this whole rant on how uh, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And he goes, "Why don't you start with Mozart?" And while you're trashing, everybody was great.
Yeah, he also does a little bit of that in Annie Hall as
Mm.
well. I think in Annie Hall, Diane Keaton had a lot of say on like the wardrobe choices and certain character choices. Was that the case with Manhattan or no? Less so.
Less so because Manhattan is more focused, I think, on the aesthetic of Manhattan of the city, and I also think uh, it's almost like he focuses on the architecture of everything, the way it looks, the way it's presented. And so the costumes, since the movie's in black and white, aren't really as dominant.
I always hear about the movie Manhattan, and I've seen there's a documentary from years before called Manhattan that's also black and white, and I always am curious if like that was one of his influences or not for Manhattan, since you even said like it emphasizes the architecture and stuff more, which Manhattan does. I don't know if you ever heard of that before.
I have not seen it.
Yeah, it's just I mean, it's like a very early documentary in film history, so like not everyone talks about it as much as other things. But I think for better or for worse, Woody Allen is a good choice to start with. He did define like the vision in New York, I think, in the 70s for sure. Um, it's okay if I move on to my pick.
Absolutely.
So my first pick, actually, on the topic of documentaries, most of my choices are fictional, but I think one of the best New York movies of all time is Paris is Burning, and just one of the best documentaries. Period. Um, it captures like the golden age, the end of the golden age for the underground ballroom culture in the 1980s, which is super influential. Like if you're talking about New York, I do think the LGBTQIA community is so important to talk about, since a lot of like the monumental San Francisco is an important city, but I think you have Stonewall happening in the 70s. You get this underground ballroom culture happening in the 80s, and then you do see like the AIDS epidemic unfortunately impact people in like the 80s and 90s. So I think you have to, if when you're talking about the LGBTQ community, you have to give credit to like the pioneers and the people who came before us. And Paris is Burning just is just for is one of the best documentaries of all time for a reason. And the director who did it moved to New York to film the movie, and I think she captures like 7 years in total. And it just captures it's a celebration of just of the culture of that time, and it's such a good like time capsule of like what was happening. And yes, there was like a lot of like mainstream culture, like disco and stuff was more normalized at this point, but there was still certain things that weren't normalized yet, which was why this was underground. But there's certain terms that we now know, like voguing and etc., that this movie normalized. And eventually we see people like Madonna take those I'm trying to think the best term. We see her take those things and capitalize off of them, like voguing, for instance, and like other people in general. But like these people are the shape the culture in ways. And a lot of times, black gay culture shapes the culture as they did with disco as well. So I think this movie shines a light on that, the good and the bad. You see them go
Mm.
through tragic things as well. There's just a lot that this movie touches on. I think societal issues, but then also it is vibrant as well. So yeah, I know I said a lot, but there's a lot to say with this movie.
No, that's good. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I didn't put Paris is Burning, but I do have on well, actually, I had initially on my top 10 list um, The Boys in the Band at number 7, which is a great play turned film by William Friedkin, which is about a hostess party. by a group of friends who are all gay, and the reason why I initially had it on the top 10 is because uh, for the same reasons you ended up having Paris is Burning. It is such a subculture that was so present if you understood New York culture.
That's another movie that and just play that I hear about all the time, and they remade it. I think Netflix at some point.
Yeah.
Um, I think some other movies that I was considering, I can go more in depth later, but you like Rent came to mind. Rent came to my
Mm,
head, but I do think the a lot of people consider the play better than the movie, which is why it's
yes.
not higher on my list ultimately. But it does capture a moment in time with the LGBT community, but also just youth in general. That movie, I will go more in depth on it later, and then I think Dog Day Afternoon is another one that I feel like was showing real issues of people fighting for just trans rights at the time, and gender affirming surgery and stuff. And you gotta, like I said before, you gotta give credit to the pioneers who came before us who fought. And I know with Dog Day Afternoon, that's a bit more of a controversial figure, and even in the movie addresses that Al Pacino's character is divisive.
All
Yeah,
right.
but yeah, those are just some. I The queer culture is so vibrant in New York, and I wanted to give it credits with my fifth choice. So yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
we can unless you have more to say, we can go to your fourth.
No, no, that's pretty good. Okay. Number four. There were two films that could have totally been number four, and because they're in the same vein, I was trying to pick maybe two films that uh, could capture this because it's such a New York thing, which is news. One being Face in the Crowd, which is a film about a lower level guy becomes like a news anchor sensation, kind of in the same vein of Bill O'Reilly or one of those.
What's the name of it again?
Face in the Crowd.
I've never heard of this before. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and then I ended up picking for number four the movie that inspired it, which is Chayefsky's written Network at number four,
I
because
consider
I
that.
think because I it holds up. It really does. If you watch the speech, you could just watch the speech of him saying, "I'm mad as hell and I can't take it anymore," and you just it wants you to get up. The idea of going to your window and screaming and having the whole city be a participant in uh, the outrage culture that we now have, that our news wants us to participate in, is such a thing. And now it's even on social media. Now you could watch somebody at home tell you get angry, get and and you the viewer could be like, well, yeah, I should be pissed off about this and this, and then find out that everything that they're talking about is not because they believe in it, it's just because they're going absolutely insane,
I
and you get
Yeah,
caught up in the drama.
I love Network. I think it's such a good critique on the media and the television stations at the time and how before the term clickbait was normalized, they were like criticizing sensationalist news and the fact that certain stories would do better in popularity if they were sensationalist than if they weren't. And the cast is just really solid too. And then Faye
Absolutely.
Dunaway is in it, right?
Faye Dunaway is in it.
Yeah, that's like
She,
one of her best.
yeah,
And the rest of the cast is solid too.
yeah. You have Robert Duvall is killing it. He has a lot of what I love about him in that movie is he has a lot of hand acting. He does a lot of like this, and You have to do this. Oh, what's his name? Oh my God. I was about to say Warren Beatty, but that's not it.
Ned Beatty.
Ned Beatty. Thank you.
That's who
Thank
I was
you.
about to
Ned
mention
Beatty's in
next.
it.
Yeah, Ned
Yeah,
Beatty is
he's in
great
it.
for sure. Very solid cast, super iconic and influential, and I think more relevant than ever, and very ahead of its time. In regards to like yelling scenes, the only other yelling scene that I think compares is like Coming to America when he's like yelling on the porch to the neighbors. They're like, "Shut up!"
Oh, I love that scene. Coming to America. Good. That's New York, right? Or is
Yeah,
that Chicago?
no, that's New
That's New
York.
York. That's
I
New
have
York.
that on
Yeah.
my list for later, but I'll go more in depth on that later. Um,
Okay.
any more you want to say on Network?
Go watch it. But other than that, no.
Okay, so my number four is In the Heights. I feel like this is one of the best musicals of all time. It doesn't get as much credit as like Wicked, since John Chu. More people have seen Wicked, and that was like a blockbuster hit. Even like Crazy Rich Asians is more popular if you're talking John M. Chu movies. But In the Heights, I feel like not a lot of people watched it in theaters, but
Mm.
they did something that a lot of musicals struggle with. They like John M. Chu understood that film is a different medium than like a play, and since the original play takes place in like one day, kind of similar to like Do the Right Thing, and what they did with this movie is they really capitalized on like what you can do with musical sequences, and they have the awesome pool sequence that's in the trailers, and then there's like this club dance scene. There's just them dancing on the streets in general. There's so much. It's captures like Washington Heights really well, I think, and the immigrant experience and the Latino community, and it's such a celebration. And you see bodegas, and there's a lot of emphasis on like the family unit and the pressures that come with that. You see like one of the characters like she wants to like she feels certain pressures when it comes to going to college and stuff, and then there's another character who like wants to leave because to like live her life and her dreams. So you see those the characters struggling with that, but then the sense of community is super important in that movie, and it is an important part of New York in general. And um, I love just all the characters in the community throughout this movie, and it's such a vibrant movie with a lot of charisma.
Mhm. Yeah, it is.
And it was filmed like pre-pandemic, and it was unfortunately impacted by the pandemic when it came out in theaters. But it captures like summertime New York. Like I said, the pools and just other aspects like really well. You have like the Paragua scene, even when Manuel Miranda shows up in it as, but which some people criticize. The one thing I think some people did criticize with the movie that I do have to acknowledge a little bit is some people felt like there was a bit of a colorism issue of they could have casted more Afro Latinos in the movie to like better reflect the demographic of Washington Heights. That's like one of the main criticisms I heard about the casting at the time. But I do think it put people like Melissa Barrera and like Leslie Grace, who unfortunately hasn't really done anything since that Batgirl kerfuffle. But Melissa Barrera is amazing in this movie. And yeah, I think it's this movie just does not get enough credit. It also acknowledges just like gentrification as well. There's a lot
Mm.
going on with this movie. The dance scenes are awesome. Yeah.
I It's probably my favorite Chew film, and it's my favorite Lin Mal Miranda musical. I actually straight up don't like Hamilton, but I love In the Heights. Uh, I I think the ending is a little uh, unnoteworthy, um, but
Yes.
it starts off
Yeah. No, continue.
fantastic. Oh, but it starts off fantastic. It just picks up and goes and flows so well. And you're right. Melissa is so good in this movie. I think she was the best part, actually.
Yeah.
And I love the camera work.
Yes, exactly.
It goes in and out, it weaves, and yeah, and it gets the heights really well. It captures the entire environment. You believe you're there.
Yeah, I think that's probably why the movie's so vibrant. Like you said, the camera work is so well executed for like the musical sequences, and there's could have been a version of this movie that is a bit that feels more like a play, and I think it the camera work could have been more still, and I think it would have impacted the movie significantly.
Mm.
Um, there was something else you said that I wanted. Oh, you said the ending. I feel like that's a criticism I hear about the movie often. From my understanding, I think they went a different path than the original play on Broadway. I think there's a certain ending that with that movie, and they decided to go a different route because the movie takes place more than one day, whereas the Broadway show doesn't. So I think that's where the issue comes from.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, any more to say, or do you want to go to your next choice?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Number three is actually do the right thing. Uh, yeah. I think this is the perfect movie.
Yeah,
Uh, it has everything. Talk about a movie that depicts the world in which it is perfectly. Um, you know, vibrant colors. That I think every time now that they show Brooklyn or other parts of New York, take straight from uh, do the right thing. The characters all feel real to you to this day. You know at least somebody who you're like, oh, that reminds me of that. And the racial aspect, the the political implications, they're all there, and they're all still very very if you live in Brooklyn, if you live in New York, if you live in an urban area, you feel connected to it. It's it's amazing, um, and like uh, in the Heights, uh, Spike Lee is a character in the movie. He's the main character in the movie, and it works perfectly well. You know what I mean? It's not. It doesn't take away from the movie. The soundtrack is amazing. Cameos everywhere. Anybody who's in it now, you can look back and be like, "Oh my God, he's famous." Marlon Lawrence, Samuel Jackson. Uh, the ending uh, puts a stamp on it. So much to talk about. Uh,
yeah.
Putting "Fight the Power" by Public Enemy and putting hip hop in a movie was like huge, and just bringing that entire culture over to cinema. It's amazing. It's perfect.
I think this movie is just so ahead of its time with like, and I like that the rising heat in a single day is like a metaphor for like the simmering racial tensions going on that get and the way this movie executes the tonal shift from the beginning versus the end, and then when you get to the end of the movie, you're just like, whoa. Like when you're watching it
Yeah.
for the first time, it's just like, and it just happens so quickly, and it's like even if you've seen it more than once, it happens so quickly, and it's so much the process. Because truth be told, if something like that were to happen in real life, it would go super quick as well, and it would be super hard. You would have to make very quick decisions, and maybe might not make the right choices like quick enough, to be honest. And I feel like it's just so well executed. Spike Lee is like a character in New York City history for a reason. Like you said, he's in this movie, but they even named a avenue after this movie. Do the Right Thing Way, I think is the name of the street. And
Mm,
I don't think there's another street in New York named after a fictional like piece of work. But it just shows you
right.
how much of an essential like New York movie this is. And you're right about the soundtrack being amazing. Some a fact like a lot of people don't realize is the score. I think was his father. I think
Oh, is that
and then
so? I don't.
yeah, and then his sister is also in the movie. So he likes to work with his family sometimes when he's working on different projects. That's my number one New York movie of all time, Do the Right Thing. So I'm glad. I think both of us having it on our list shows how important of a movie it is and is an essential New York movie. It's another movie that captures the sense of community so well. It takes place on a single block, and I think I give credit to movies where it takes place in mostly like one location and you're not bored. To be fair, there
Mm,
is different like buildings within the block. There's like the radio station, there's the pizza place, there's the Korean convenience store, and I like that it this is a hard nuanced thing to articulate what I'm about to say, but I like how the movie touches on stereotypes and how people don't bother to
yeah.
get to know people beyond stereotypes and the consequences of that and resentment that comes from that. Um, but yeah, it captures like different like everyday locations you would see in New York really well. And even though they did, I think, like change certain details, like I think they like painted the wall like a darker red, like the famous brick wall in the movie, and they changed like the radio station where they shot at, I think was like an abandoned building. So they did like tweak certain things, but it does feel like a real street regardless in a real block. Um, I feel yeah, it just like it's to me like the quintessential Brooklyn movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Two things that I wanted to bring up. One is like you said, it goes so quickly, and you're almost like, oh my God, like I can't believe that happened. But at the same time, it goes away quickly. Like
Yep.
the next day and it's another day in Brooklyn and it's hot again. You know what I mean? There's no like we have to mourn everything that just happened. Nope. It's just another day and we have to wake up and continue our lives. This can't stop the rest of our lives. And there's a bittersweetness to that because you're like, okay, I have hope to make this day better, but at the same time, it's like, can we just talk about what just happened? But we can't because life just keeps going on. And it's unfortunate that well, it's unfortunate that that's the case, but it's amazing how Spike Lee is able to notice that, And another part that I was thinking about is Spike Lee actually really helped film understand how to light darker skin tone actors because he always felt that in movies um, they were shot very off and not looking as great. So in this movie, you end up learning how to do that with the lighting that he puts on them. And since then on, you could definitely see an improvement on them.
That's a interesting fact that I didn't realize was the case with this movie, and that's a big issue in just Hollywood in general. So I'm glad you shined a light on that. Is this your favorite Spike Lee movie, or do you have another movie you like more?
I have three that I'm always like every time I see them like that's the best one, that's the best one. But then I watch the other one and I go no, that's the best one. It's um Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X, and She's Gotta Have It are like three of my favorite for different reasons. Malcolm X because how the hell did you pull that off? That is a 3 hour movie that isn't Lawrence of Arabia, doesn't go to a magical place, isn't, Gone with the Wind, where it's like some epic, like cinematic war going on. No, it's centered on one character and
Just his whole
it's all
life.
pertaining. Yeah, and Do the Right Thing, I think is such a pinnacle movie of on the street filmmaking and, you know, this. it's dirty, it's not perfect, but it is perfect in its imperfections because it's like it's like you don't need to watch a Jean-Luc Godard movie to because it's so there. All the techniques of on the street filmmaking, the way the camera dials to show the effect, but because it doesn't have the right budget. And in the beginning of the movie, before it starts, he talks about, "Oh, hey, the way I made this movie, I was selling socks on the side of the street. So this movie's not going to be a big budget, but it's going to have a really good story, and it all stems on the creativity of Spike Lee. It's fantastic, and it's provocative, and it all the story is what really like keeps the movie flowing. Oh, it's so good.
I like what you said of it's perfect because of how it depicts imperfections perfectly. That's a really great way to describe the movie. And I feel like I can't top anything with that comment, really, honestly. So if you want, wait, that was your number three? I guess we can move
Yes.
to my number three then,
Yep. Right ahead.
which doesn't compare to Do the Right Thing. Again, Do the Right Thing was my number one choice. But if you're talking like a recent movie that I thought was a really good New York movie, Anora is on my list. It's not my favorite Sean Baker movie, and I don't think it depicts that community as nuanced as his other movies. However, I feel like it captures the wealth gap arguably better than maybe any other New York movie does. And that community is an important part of New York. Like I said earlier, like Paris is Burning kind of touches on it a bit, but I think there's other movies like Hustlers, which focuses in on like the 2008 financial crisis. Um,
Mm.
with that's the movie with J Lo and Constance Wu. That captures a different aspect of that community well. I guess you could say even like Shiva Baby with Rachel Sennett
Mm.
is
Yeah.
more focused on sugar babies, but I feel like this movie, Anora specifically, um, even though it's not as nuanced as other Sean Baker movies with its depiction, I think they did go out of their way to like cast like real people. I have I'm mutuals with someone who was like cast in this movie. I remember when Anora was first announced, since I'm a huge Sean Baker fan, and I had someone I was friends with at the time who was like, "Oh, this person who I know just posted on their story that they're in the movie. Who the girl who played the best friend Lulu? Her name is
Nice.
Luna Sophia Miranda, I think. If I got that name wrong, someone could fact check me in the comments. But she they like cast like real people. So it was really cool to see her at the Oscars ceremony. And I think something a lot of people haven't kept up with is like how she's been struggling at post that movie
Oh
because now
yes, yes,
she's
I heard
too
about that.
famous where she can't do certain work, but she's not famous, but she's still seen as not a serious actress enough to be working in the industry either, which is an unfortunate reality but I think is important to acknowledge. But getting back to the movie, besides just the wealth gap, I think the Brighton Beach community is represented really well. The Russian speaking community, that's a real thing. I had Russian speaking people that I know at the time who were like super excited when this movie came out and felt really seen in this movie. And you do have Mikey Madison who learned Russian for this movie, and she did attempt the Brooklyn accent. Some people have criticized it, but she did attempt it. And her and Sean Baker moved to New York during pre-production to do research for the movie, and you could tell they shot in New York City, like Brighton Beach, and just in the city in general, since it really feels like a New York movie. A lot of the cinematography is inspired by like 1970s New York movies, like Taking of Pelham 123 or French Connection. And Sean Baker, I think, was inspired by like his work experiences with the Russian speaking community in Brighton Beach, since apparently he used to edit wedding videos back in the early 2000s. So that's what apparently inspired this movie, which is crazy to think. Um, oh, something I forgot to say with the wealth gap is even like the mansion in the movie. It's like a real mansion in Brighton Beach. Sean Baker just looked on Google, like, what's the biggest and best mansion in Brighton Beach? And that's what came up. So he shot there for real.
Good
And
move.
it's like, I feel like it captures the American dream really well without spoiling the movie. In a, yeah, that's what I'll say about it without spoiling too much. But yeah,
Yeah, no, I love that movie. It was my favorite movie of that year. Um, as soon as I left the theater, I said that's winning Best Picture, and everybody didn't believe me, but I was right.
it was my most
Uh,
anticipated movie going into that year, and people thought I was
Mine
crazy when
too.
I said that. And it was on my radar because
I
my
have to
dad
send you
told me
something.
about it. And then even when it won the Cannes Film Festival, I was like, see, I was like, this is a serious Best Picture contender in like May of whatever year it came out. And I was like, people need to keep an eye on this movie going forward. And then months
2022.
later, yeah, months later, it won Best Picture. And I remember posting that post that I posted in May, like, see, I told you all. I was like, that this is a movie y'all need to keep an eye on.
I'm I not to to my own horn, but I'm good at saying what's going to win. Even the ones I don't think is going, I know. But that one, I was like that should win. If not, it should win Best Picture, but it will win Best Picture. I wrote a paper. I wrote an article in um, my school newspaper called "Sean Baker is the best filmmaker of our time."
Yeah, he's one of my
Um,
favorites for sure.
like I know I brought it up, but I met him before. We've talked. We actually talked about two things: French New Wave and horror films, because he's a big horror guy. If you watch
Yeah.
his movies, you could see he like puts posters of like the most deep cut films, and it's like okay, I know that character wouldn't know that movie, but it's nice that he puts them in there. Uh,
I know he's a horror fan since there was like a horror event. I forgot what where he like briefly mentioned like some of his favorite horror movies and he gave like a speech. It was really I wish I could find the video and then maybe send it to you. But French New Wave you definitely see as an influence like aesthetic wise. Especially
yeah,
on a movie like Florida Project for sure. Not
yeah.
just aesthetic wise with that. Yeah, sorry.
In Tangerine, he unapologetically takes shot composition from Truffaut's Jules and Jim, which I caught. I was like,
Oh,
hey, look at
okay.
you did that.
Sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think more Breathless, which I think is one of your favorite movies. I
Yeah.
think Florida
Yeah.
Project. I think there's a lot of similarities with those two movies.
And the only reason why I met him is because I did plays in college. My play director was an actor in one of his movies, like first movies, and they were friends. And he said, "Do you want to meet him?" And then I met him.
That's cool. Anything else to say about Anora, or do you want to go to your second pick? Your number two
No,
pick?
yeah, it's a great movie, and like I said, it was my number one movie of that year. So yeah, let's go. Number two. Number two was tough because I had three movies I wanted to put at number two, and I had to pick one because I was thinking, okay, I need this culture to be represented at least something. But then I was like,
Wait, can I correct myself? I meant to say 400 Blows, not Breathless. Sorry, when I said similarities with Florida
oh
Project.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
okay,
your favorite movie. Sorry, I was mixing up. I obviously know the difference between Truffaut and Godard, but I wanted to
good
correct
dog,
myself
yeah,
before moving on, since that would.
sure.
Yeah, but yeah, continue. Sorry, go to your number two.
So it was three. It was All About Eve, All
Mm,
That Jazz, and The Godfather, Part Two. Why Godfather Part Two and not Godfather Part One? I think Godfather Part Two does a better job at having New York as a character. And it, so I'm in my head, number two, I'm like, okay, Broadway is a big part of New York. So, but then I was like, what's the better movie though? What movie could I watch? Well, I really loved all that jazz a lot,
Me too.
but that movie might just be on my top 10 because that movie is more focused on um oh my god, why am I forgetting
Bob Fosse?
Bob Fosse. Like that's a Bob Fosse movie. That is more determined on Bob Fosse. While All About Eve is Broadway and specifically about the ways in when you live in New York, you kind of become you can reinvent yourself. But then I was like, but wait, what movie does that and I think does it a little better is Godfather Part 2. Godfather Part 2 is my number two film of New York.
Very
Why?
fitting.
Because the idea of making the first 5 seconds not be about Michael, but about young Vito Antolini, who then becomes Vito Corleone, which becomes Vito Corleone because it's the immigrant story. It's the idea of inventing yourself and becoming someone so significant when you have nothing. It's amazing. It's perfect. It is so good, and and then you see the other side of it, which is the story that we think of now, like um, that I think of even in my own life, which is I'm the established American, right? My family had to come here from struggles of communism and uh, civil war in Guatemala. Like that's why they came over here, and I'm the established. I'm the Michael. I'm the one that has to then take over and screw everything up because I don't have that foundation of you know. Everything's on my back the way my grandmother or my great 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 grandmother had when she only had gold and to sell from a bracelet and $5 in her pocket. They established candy stores and things like that, and met with the mob. And my grandmother talking about meeting them in clubs and stuff and being afraid of them because they were such part of the culture. Like I didn't have to worry about any of that. Or in Guatemala, being the way Corleone's family was being threatened. They were being threatened in Guatemala by, uh, you know, cartels and being like, "Let's go to America so we live." Like I have none of that. I'm the what you would consider the privilege. I don't know anything about that. I know an established family, and I think that is such an American New York uh, story.
It's one of the best movies about the immigrant experience. I That question has been on my mind since I watched Mississippi Masala recently for the first time, and I was like, I think that's one of the best immigrant movies, but that's not necessarily a New York movie. But I think my favorite immigrant movie overall would probably be The Brutalists, which has New
Mm,
York at the very beginning, but it goes to Pennsylvania later on. And then, but Brooklyn's also another really good immigrant movie with
I love
Saoirse
Brooklyn.
Ronan in
I love
um,
Brooklyn.
in Past Lives as well. I think that is an essential part of a lot of people's experience in New York City is the immigrant experience. So having a movie like Godfather 2 that captures that makes sense. It's one of the best sequels of all time because I think a lot of the best sequels, in my opinion, kind of do the inverse of what the initial movie does. What I mean by that is like Terminator 1, Arnold's the villain. Terminator 2, he's not the villain. Godfather 1, it has the rise of Michael and the fall of Vito, and then or yeah, I guess you could say the decline of Vito rather than fall. And then Godfather 2 is the rise of Vito and the decline of Michael. So that was very clever that they did that with this movie. And I think that's why it's one of the most successful sequels and considered one of the best of all time. I think Blade Runner is another one that does that as well, but that's a whole completely different rant. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm a Godfather 1 fan more than Godfather 2. But I do think the Godfather movies capture like the Italian American part of New York really well. And yeah, I mean, there's so much I could ramble on. I do think Godfather is one of the best screenplays of all time, period. So,
All right. Your number two.
my number 2 is Working Girl.
Ooh.
Um, I think it's one of the best opening scenes and closing scenes of all time. And as a New Yorker, I don't know how you watch either of those scenes and not get amped up. Because without spoiling the ending, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but the opening scene is just Melanie Griffith and Joan Cusack, they're best friends, they're commuting to work on the Staten Island ferry. You see the Statue of Liberty, there's that swooping shot, and it's so mundane, yet they make it feel like the most epic thing of all time, and it feels like larger than life. And that's something just a lot of people just do on a daily basis, especially in the 80s, is just commute to work on the Staten Island ferry and walk the streets and look up at the skyscrapers, and they make it feel like the most epic thing of all time. And I love their dynamic in the movie, but it just like it makes you instantly locked into the movie. And I feel like people have criticized me for saying this, but I do think it's one of the quintessential like rom-coms of the 80s and just in general. And I feel like it doesn't get as much credit as like When Harry Met Sally does, as a rom-com. And Melanie Griffith is such an empowering like feminist figure of that time, and she's fighting for like a Cinderella type story in that movie, where you see her struggling to be taken seriously as a woman in the workplace in a very competitive work environment. And I think that is a big part of New York City, is like the hustle and bustle and how fast paced it is, and being able to keep up with all of that and fighting with your claws to just be respected and seen a lot of the times. And I think she just it's a very empowering movie that's hard to not have a smile on your face while you're watching. And I love how it captures just New York City and like someone just dreaming of climbing the ladder and
Yeah.
the fashion of the time, and for better for worse the party culture. You can tell even Melanie Griffith was partaking in the party culture while filming in this movie, which she's commented on since the years later. But yeah, it's a great movie, and I don't think it gets enough credit. And Harrison Ford and Sigourney Weaver, I'm like, that alone should be a reason for people to watch this movie, and yet so many people, I feel like younger, more so than the older generations, haven't seen it. And I'm like, it's just an awesome movie. Yeah, and
Yeah, I love Harrison Ford in this movie. He's so like himself. He's playing it straight, so Melanie Griffith could be, the comedic, um, but which is funny because she's trying her best to be taken seriously by him, and it's just not going her way. Like she's just like, damn it, like nobody's. It's been a while since I've seen it, as I do watch Harry Met Sally just a little bit more, and I think
yeah,
that's
that's fair.
because for this. That's just because I think you're right. I just think it's the one people just put on more on TV and stuff. You know what I mean? It's not on TV as much,
Yeah.
and I think it should be, because it's right up there. And like you said, it perfectly encapsulates that day-to-day mundaneness that that can seem like an adventure.
I think
Um,
people forget this because the younger generations forget this. But Melanie Griffith in that movie was like a feminist figure, and so was Jennifer Beal in Flashdance. And I feel like that's another one people forget about in the younger generations. In the same way, to me, that Sigourney Weaver was an alien, or like Linda Hamilton was in Terminator. And I feel like
Mm,
if you pull a lot of women at that time, they were very empowered by like seeing those kinds of women in screen, but yet they don't get as much credit for being like empowering female characters in the 80s. Um, but yeah,
that's
and
good. All right.
it's
That's
super influential working girl, and I can tell you a specific movie in my honorable mentions that specifically references it on purpose later on. But I'm not knocking When Harry Met Sally at all. I'm a huge Rob Reiner fan. He's one of my favorite directors, as well as Sean Baker and others that I mentioned earlier. But so I'm never gonna be knocking When Harry Met Sally, but that's just the one that's more famous compared than Working Girl. But yeah.
mm, yeah, that's a good one.
Well, my
Uh,
number one has already been said, so we can go to which was Do the Right Thing. So we can go to your number one, since I don't think we've covered it yet.
Number one. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's one director that I have not talked about who gives so much back to New York, and that is Martin Scorsese. And I was like, okay, he has New York all in his filmography. I'm surprised he even made The Departed in Boston and not made it a New York movie because it easily could have been, since he knows that world so much. And I could have gone back from his New York stories, which he did, like all the shorts that he did. He did An Italian Family, which is about his family, and that's great. Mean Streets, After Hours, Goodfellas, so on and so forth, right? Who's Knocking at My Door, which is underrated one that the first movie he did with Harvey Keitel. Um,
I'm curious which New
but
York movie. Since there's two that come to my head, but I think it's gonna be the more famous, not the less famous one that you haven't
probably,
mentioned.
New York with what's her
Uh,
name?
Liza
That
Minnelli.
that Liza Minnelli, right? Which is a little wild. So
People do not
crazy movie.
realize that Frank Sinatra was not the one who originally sang New York, New York, and it's Liza Minnelli in that movie.
True. Yes, that is.
That is
You're
an
absolutely right.
important movie in New York history, and people do not even realize it.
No, it does not. Again, it does not get enough credit because of the other ones.
Yeah.
Raging Bull technically is a New York movie. It starts out in New York and goes to other places, but but number one is Taxi
Yeah,
Driver.
that's a great one. That's my favorite Scorsese. Yeah.
Number one because it is so New York. You don't have friends in New York. You just don't. Especially in New York City. Especially in 1970 New York City, you do not have friends. You walk around and you're lonely. You're a lonely motherfucker. Like you just walk around in your own thoughts and it it encapsulates that moment. Crime is up. The grid goes out every night. It just prostitution left and right in Midtown. Weird characters, people selling guns for protection, bodegas, uh, almost it's not said, but a little due to crime, this almost resentment and what turns into fear turns into almost hatred and racial tension, especially in the character of Travis Bickle. You know what I mean? He doesn't. The way he describes them, he sees them as dirty and just fumes. And the scene where he's holding the cup and it's bubbling at the surface. Oh, it's such a good symbolism of the character. And, meeting characters who come from other places who are empty, looking for life, like Jodie Foster's character, who's not from New York. That's the thing we learn from. She's not from New York. She came to New York looking for something, and that's why people come. And in the vein of a Midnight Cowboy, they don't really find as much as the glitz and glamour that they're shown to find and end up selling themselves on the street.
Yeah,
Oh,
those are
it's so
two great
good.
examples that I didn't mention earlier while bringing up Anora. But you're right, yeah.
And and yeah, right. And I'm sure Nora was influenced by that too, and characters who are so slimy. In the same vein as what's funny, when I was watching what Sean Baker's not Nora, the other one where
Red Rocket, Florida
Red
Project.
Rocket, Red Rocket. The main character reminded me of Spike from Sport from Taxi Driver, because Sport is so grooming her and so like,
That's Harvey
oh,
Keitel, right?
yeah. And Harvey Keitel is amazing, and he's not in it a lot. His limited amount is perfect enough where you completely know that character. You know that type who's who's friendly and joking with you, but he's evil. And there's a point to it where you kind of want him to die. So you're with yourself like, but is Travis Bickle the guy who's losing it, the guy to do it? And speaking of New York, Albert Brooks is in this movie. Albert Brooks, who goes on to be one of the best directors, underrated, who doesn't get enough credit. I think. I
Yeah,
think
I love
now we
Defending Your Life.
defending your life is perfect. Mama, I think it is.
I'm less familiar with the rest of his
You know,
filmography, but
he
interesting.
uh, uh, he's great in broadcast news. Just a character actor. Uh, what's his name? Who's his friend? Uh, oh my God. Um, Peter Boyle, who plays the other taxi guy, who's like, "You need help, Travis," and he's trying to explain to him what's wrong with him, and he goes, "Just, just go." He goes, "Yeah, I know that feeling, but you gotta like let it go." Like he's an older taxi driver. He's been there. He's met all these characters, and yeah, he's almost like, trust me, I know the feeling of wanting to change everything, but guess what? You're not gonna change things with whatever you want to do. I like I may not know specifically what you want to do, but I know that what you're going to do or what you want isn't the right way. And he's like, okay, and then does completely the opposite. And it's just like, no, I have to take it upon myself. And you see that a lot, especially. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go there right now, Sam, by saying, look at what just happened with the Luigi Mangione thing. He took it upon himself. Immediately when I saw that, I thought of Travis Bickle, a
Well,
guy who
it's
sees
fair
wrongs in his
because
world.
even Reagan, the guy who with the Reagan stuff was a Jodie Foster stan allegedly, who was inspired by this movie. So it's hard when that kind of incidents happen to not think of this movie, honestly.
Right. It's and I'm like, holy crap, that totally could have been a New York thing. Like I'm gonna take justice in my own hand. And how's so something Martin Scorsese said when it came to this movie was, um, you're not you're supposed to be conflicted with Travis Bickle as a character, but at the same time, you you don't want to root for him because he's not particularly a hero. He just loses it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Which
he's
isn't the
he's a
same
very good
thing.
anti-hero for sure. And I feel like this is a very gritty 70s movie that captures like just New York at that time. New York was very gritty. A lot of the movies in my honorable mentions that we could go to next are I have like a few movies that I think are like show the grittiness of New York during that time period. And this was peak crime in the 70s and 80s. Um, Times Square had like porn theaters at the time, which I'm pretty sure they show in Taxi Driver. So it's like this
Yeah.
movie captures a lot of the grittiness of New York at that time period very well.
Right. And one aspect to it, I'm glad you brought up the porn theater, is that and not to, spoil too much again too specific, but is he goes to them alone in the movie, and it's how is that any different from now where you have, young men who don't socialize, don't talk to women, don't, go out of their way and are essentially on the internet just watching porn alone, not full-fledged humans who, like now we see and get not radicalized, but almost uh,
I get what you're saying, yeah.
boiling to the point when they watch, their political commentator being like, "This is what's wrong with the world." They're like, "I'm lonely. I need to make a name for myself and go do something crazy."
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. That's still unfortunately relevant. And I think there was some stuff that like it's a very influential movie since like Joker for instance is a movie that took a lot from Taxi Driver and a lot of the conversation when Joker came out similar to Taxi Driver of does this glorify certain behavior or does it rather than condone it? And it's like I think the movie does like show like maybe that it is extreme and a bit too far his behavior but and possible actions he's considering but similar with the Joker and I think it's on the audience to be smart enough to realize that and it's not on the
uh,
filmmaker.
absolutely, because someone who says, "Yeah, but in the movie, uh, like, well, again, I don't want to spoil it, but towards the end, if you watch the last scene, it actually gives you that answer." And again, anybody who hasn't seen it, highly recommend it. Watch Taxi
For
Driver.
sure.
It's amazing.
um is it okay if I get into my honorable mentions that are also gritty takes on New York just because it's like
Absolutely. Yeah.
I feel like I have like a few that fall into that category. One of them being the movie Fame, which I don't think gets enough credit from the 80s. Before, I saw a lot of lists for like best New York movies. A lot of people have kids on their list, which I find interesting
Mm,
from the 90s. And a lot of people now are like, oh, Kids was Euphoria before Euphoria. But I would even argue before Kids, you have Fame. Like, Fame is just capturing the lives of high school students. And does it get as dark as Euphoria or Kids does? Probably not. But there is some stuff that I remember watching and I'm like, whoa, this is very jarring. And I'm like, wow, they really go there with some of the issues that the movie tackles. And this is a performing arts school. And even
yeah.
then, which should be in theory like more privilege, but even then, you see them dealing with the pressure of society and it really getting to them and them having to consider things that they might not if they didn't feel that pressure so much. And it's a very mature movie to the point where I didn't realize that they were trying to work with like the New York Board of Education to film the movie on location and like even like well now we have like the mayor's like New York film branch who a lot of films made in New York are made through the program Made in NY. And I think they were trying to work with that like government branch and the government thought a lot of the stuff in the script was too mature and so they were struggling making this movie because of that because a lot of people thought it was but it's tackling like real stuff I think and it was filmed in 1979, but it came out like 1980. And I feel like it's another one of those movies kind of similar to Working Girl, which I mentioned earlier, where I feel like the younger generations don't realize how influential of a movie it is, or
Sure.
even know of it, and like realize how important it was. Um, but and it's super memorable too. Like certain sequences, like there's the iconic like dancing on taxi sequence from this movie, which is amazing. And then Irene Cara has like a couple songs from this movie, and and I remember when the Oscars tribute happened for her, they played there was a song from this movie that they played. Since she is a part of this movie, it's because like Flashdance, she was part of the soundtrack, but like Fame, she was acting in the movie in addition to doing the soundtrack. And Fame is just like, yes, in theory, like a lot of people like look at something like LaGuardia School of the Arts and kind of like consider it more privileged. But I feel like this movie makes sure to acknowledge that there is a lot of like real issues that people are dealing with, even though that's the case with this group of people. Yeah, sorry. Have you
Oh
seen
no,
it or
no,
no?
yeah, no, I've seen Fame. It's funny. I watched ER first, and there's an actor actually in Fame that I didn't even know he was. I was and I don't know the actor's name, but he has a memorable face. He's the blonde curly haired kid. I think he in Fame he's the gay one who who
Gotcha.
I think gets who deals with AIDS or HIV in Fame. Um, but he when I saw the movie, I was like, oh my god, he's in this movie, and he I didn't know he was so talented. Like he could dance, he could sing. I was like, oh wow, this is really amazing. And you can see the influential even to the way Fame does uh, American Idol now. Like the idea of getting cut, the way it does it is really, real. Like it's like, and their faces, and I love the way it shows their faces as you have no idea. And it goes, they all step up and they all think they're like, oh, we're gonna make it. And it goes, and you're all leaving. And I was just like, wait, what? Oh, it was crazy.
Yeah, this movie, I mean, without spoiling certain things, it goes into certain places that you wouldn't expect it to. And I think I commend the movie for doing so. I feel like another gritty movie from that time period, except more 70s than 80s, is Saturday Night Fever. I feel like that's one
I
of
was
those
thinking about
movies
that
that
one.
get brushed off as like the disco movie. It's so much more than that. Like, it's he's not a good guy. I think that's the thing people don't realize who
Not
haven't
at
seen
all.
Saturday Night Fever is
He's an
John Travolta's
asshole.
character is not good. He's an awful person, and I think that's the whole movie is about him having to deal with that and like maybe be like, you know what, the people I'm around are not good influences for me, and maybe I need to change. And it's like such a good New York movie. I mean, it's a great coming of age movie. It's in so many coming of age movies you think of middle school or high school, but like just people in their 20s figuring themselves out, similar to like The Graduate. I feel like it's one of the best coming of age movies, Saturday Night Fever, but I think it's one of the best New York movies. A lot of the filming took place in Brooklyn. It shows working class Brooklyn, Italian Americans specifically in Bay Ridge. Um, and but the thing I think is important to acknowledge is disco is a huge part of the movie. It has one of the undeniably the most iconic soundtracks of all time. One of my
Right off the
favorite
bat.
soundtracks, period. But I do think it's important to acknowledge of this was when disco was mass consumption at this point because it originated in like black gay communities and then it went to like white gay communities and straight black communities, and then eventually everyone started listening to disco music. So that's the point you get to with this movie in particular, where it becomes, well, somewhat similar to like what I was saying earlier with Paris is Burning, is like black gay um, culture often gets like consumed by the masses and then more normalized and becomes more mainstream with time. And
Yeah.
this movie is the epitome and the peak of disco um, with how popular it was. This movie also, getting back to like New York, well, the disco scene was important in New York in the 70s, but this movie nails the Brooklyn accents. And it has one of the best, most memorable uses of the Verrazano Bridge. Um, it kind of is traumatizing in this movie, the use of
Uh,
the
I was gonna
bridge.
say that's a good word for a use of if you know the movie. Um, little known fact: the Bee Gees didn't want to do it.
The what?
The Bee Gees they didn't want to do it.
Okay.
They were under contract. They were like, you have to create the soundtrack to this. It's in your contract. And they were like, wait, what? We don't do disco. Like, that's not our thing. They're like, it's going to be your thing now. Because remember, they were the tail end of the British invasion. Like that was their thing. They were like, we do like like folksy rock music. Like they're like, no, you're gonna do disco, and they became the face of disco after that. Like that,
Yep.
like now that's what you think of. You might think Earth, Wind, and Fire and them. Um, if you know disco, and then obviously you can branch out and be like certain songs, but most people know Saturday Night Fever, like, and How Deep Is Your Love, Night Fever, uh, just
Disco Inferno.
staying alive, Disco Inferno, um, you
For
know,
sure. Iconic
um,
soundtrack. I love it. It's definitely one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Another, just in the category of like gritty movies, that I wanted to touch on is Rent. I
mm,
mentioned it earlier of a lot of people consider the play better than the movie itself, but it's important to acknowledge how important of a story like Rent is in general, whether it be as a play or as a movie. Super important for New York culture. As I said earlier, it's like a time capsule of just the culture of the time and the youth. And then they, for those who don't realize, it's inspired by the opera La Boheme, and they replaced tuberculosis with AIDS in the movie,
okay.
and they use that opera story and then they put it through a modern New York lens, and they make the story take place in the East Village and Alphabet City, which is super smart. Um, I mean, a lot of the best movies like update like familiar stories and make it with like events and characters and locations that are more relevant to the times. And that's exactly what Rent does. It is a bit
Did
of a,
you
yeah,
What
what were
did
you
you
going to say?
speaking of Rent? What do you think of the Andrew Garfield
Oh, Tick Tick
film
Boom.
that? Yeah, which
I Tick Tick Boom. Um, I feel like it's a very solid movie. It's very good. It's not my favorite musical, but I do think it's a really well directed movie. Um, Tick Tick Boom is the making of Rent. Jonathan Larson, he was a starving artist that unfortunately tragically died before the musical came out, and he could see the musical's like success, and that's a big part of Rent is it's about struggling artists in New York City. So a lot of like his experiences, and I even know someone who allegedly like inspired one of the characters in Rent. So it's like he took from a lot of like his experiences and like real people and events and stuff happening at the time period. And Tick Tick Boom is a great movie. Actually, no, I would say a good movie. I feel like there's certain things I would change, but I do think it is a very well directed movie, and it makes me excited to see what Lin Manuel does next as a director, since he has such a good grasp on that plays and movies are different mediums. Like I said, John M. Chu does
yeah.
with In the Heights. He understands that, and I'm excited for his next project, Octet, which has an amazing
Mm,
cast. If you're not familiar with the cast attached to that, it's gonna be really good. I think that also takes place in New York, but
okay.
yeah. But Tick Tick Boom I like, but um, Rent is undeniably important to the LGBTQIA plus community. But I guess it kind of toes the line between gritty and glamorized. Some people, I guess,
Mm,
could criticize, especially more so the movie than the play, for being glamorized. I think the movie has the issue in that the play did somewhat, and like going as far back as like the workshops for this play, people were critiquing it for being like overly complex with its concept at times. And I think it feels more rushed in the movie because of that. I feel like that's easier to fully flesh out on in a 2 act Broadway show than it is in a movie. So,
Yeah, yeah, I could see that.
is there any honorable
Um,
mentions that you think like fall into like the gritty New York category?
one starring Al Pacino, Panic in Needle Park is
Yes, I hear that's
brutal.
amazing. That's on my
It is
list.
amazing. I met the
It's his first
director, did a
performance.
Q&A. Yeah, it's a sad love story. Two two heroin addicts meet in this park known as uh, Needle Park because that's where they get their drugs, and they meet, fall in love, and try to survive as two junkies. And it's got that grit. It has that low budget indie feel to it completely, where you know. It doesn't have a lot of locations. It's very on the ground, and uh, it showcases how great Al Pacino really was.
Yeah,
Um,
from the beginning. That's what I hear.
yeah, yeah. Um, like you said, taking a Pelham 123 is somewhat gritty. Uh, what's another one? Well, I I wanted to touch on one, but I'll just say this: blaxploitation did a lot for New York. Blaxploitation films were a big part.
Like Shaft.
One of them, yeah, like Shaft. One of my favorites being Across 110th Street, which then had the Bobby Womack song, Across 110th Street, and putting Yaphet Kotto on the map, who's an alien. Um, that whole genre, giving a voice to the black community, while some now see it as a little racy and stuff. It really did help get people into mainstream as they went from black exploitation to commercial successes. Uh, and I think that's a big part of the '70s.
I'm glad you acknowledged any other movies that like gritty movies that you want to cover before we move on to like other types of New York movies.
We talked about Dog Day Afternoon, taking a Pelham 123. While taking a Pelham 123 is not as gritty as the other ones, it's actually an odd film. It looks gritty, but there's an intellectualism to it that I kind of like. Um, I don't know if it's gritty as much as is it's stagey gritty, which I don't know how to like. It presents itself as gritty, but it has a cartoonish comic book feel to it, and that's 79's The Warriors. Uh,
Ah, okay.
like it's it looks gritty, and then it just becomes fun. Like it's like gritty fun. It's weird. It's odd. And then French Connection, which in the same way as Taking a Pelham Woods 3 has grit to it, but it's a it has a higher um thing to it. What's the other one? Oh my God. That's kind of in the same vein as Taxi Driver and Joker is um oh my God, why am I forgetting the name of it? With
How describe it?
uh, the family gets murdered, so he goes on a killing spree.
Oh, I don't know that one. Okay, that sounds dark.
Um, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's dark. Yeah, that's what I'm like. Oh my God, why am I forgetting it? Uh, oh my God, I just got it and now I lost it. Uh, Death Wish,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
which has what's his name from Jurassic Park and um, The Fly. What's his name?
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum plays one of the people who kills and gets his daughter and his wife. Oh, crazy performance.
Interesting. Um, I mean, going completely opposite, I think another part of like New York is like rom-coms, which is the complete opposite end of the spectrum. To get more lighthearted, what are, should I go first or do you want to go first on like
You
honorable
go first, yeah,
mention?
yeah.
We talked about When Harry Met Sally earlier. There's so many famous landmarks that show up, like Washington Square Park, Cat's Deli, Central Park. You have the Met. It does a good job of showing a lot of places in Manhattan in a short movie. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's the quintessential New York rom com for a reason. And I mean, it shows you young people trying to get their bearings in New York City. But I also think, kind of similar to like we were talking about Woody Allen earlier, like Annie Hall, just the neurotic qualities of like New Yorkers. I mean, I mean, Sally's very neurotic and like, and
Oh yeah.
Harry comments on that throughout the movie. But yeah, I think what I feel like, yeah, it captures. I was gonna say something else, and I'm forgetting my point. But besides like the neuroticism, I do think I also love the best friend characters in the movie, like Carrie Fisher, and then I forgot the guy's name, who, damn, like
Oh, he's great.
Bruno
Yeah.
something, Bruno Kirby, I think is his name, something like that, who
I
plays
I always forget his name
Harry's
too,
best
but
friend.
he's
But
great.
he's I think he's in Good Morning Vietnam.
He is. He is. He's the jerk guy who's like, get off, stop. Yeah, he's great.
Oh, I was okay. I remember the point I was gonna make. So I was gonna say, Nora Ephron. You could tell she watches like a lot of iconic like romance movies and like takes parts of like those romance movies and incorporates them in her projects. And this movie, I mean, it explicitly references like Casablanca. You see them watching it in this movie, Harry and Sally. But another thing is at the end of the movie, there's they pay homage to the apartment, which a lot of people don't realize unless you watch the apartment. Then you're like, oh wow. I'm like, that's where this is from. Okay, like there's
Yeah.
certain things that they do with the ending of When Harry Met Sally that is very much inspired by The Apartment, which is another great movie set in New York City. But also like Sleepless in Seattle takes like the Empire State Building gimmick from An Affair to Remember. An Affair to Remember does it way better in my opinion, which is why I don't like Sleepless in Seattle as much as like most people do. And When Harry Met Sally is my preferred of the Nora Ephron movies. Um, and yeah, you've got male references. What's it called? The James Stewart movie, I think, is the one who stars in it. It's like called A Shop Around the Corner or something like that.
Shop around the corner. Right, right, right.
Yeah, and you've got mail instead of like a shop,
Which
it's
I
a
love.
bookstore, and it's the Barnes and Nobles versus the cute little bookstore that Meg Ryan owns. So I do think Nora Ephron has a really good grasp on like New York romance movies, and she takes the best qualities of them and incorporates it in like her projects really well. Um, yeah. Uh, do, I have. Do you have any rom coms that like are in your
Uh,
honorable mentions or no?
um, there's smaller ones that I really like. Again, they're not great, like they're not when Harry Met Sally level, but they're cute. Like what's the one with Ray Fiennes and
Oh, Made in Manhattan.
Jennifer? Yeah, yeah. I enjoy it. It has
Yeah, I have
some
stuff
nice
like that
quality to it.
too. Yeah,
Um, but Annie Hall's the big one. Uh,
for sure.
um, oh my God, I had it and I
I can
lost it.
go cover some real quick while you remember yours, but I was gonna say some like modern again, nothing compares to When Harry Met Sally or Working Girl in my opinion, but some like modern ones that I like, even though like some people might not consider them the best in quality, is like I like 13 Going on 30. I like the movie. If you're talking like way more recent, there's this movie called Someone Great with Gina Rodriguez that's super
Hmm.
underrated. That's um, it's a great breakup movie. Her and Lakeith Stanfield are breaking up in this movie, and it's also a great movie about like friendship and as well, and her saying goodbye to New York since she's about to leave for a job that she just got. That's a very underrated rom com, I think, but it's more of a breakup movie, but it's still a
Okay.
rom com, I would say. And then another recent New York rom com that I liked is One Night Only, which is basically just came out as of yesterday. I saw it weeks ago, early. That similar to Sleepless in Seattle pays homage to An Affair to Remember with the Empire State
Mm.
Building, but does its own thing as well. And it jumps around New York a lot, and they shot in New York. They did a lot of filming in New York, so that was really cool.
I
But
remember
yeah,
one. Um, uh, the one with Kumail Nanjiani, I
oh,
thought
Big
was
Sick.
very good. The Big Sick, that takes place in New York, if I'm correct. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure. Um, I really like that one. Um, another one that I was thinking of, uh, oh my God, I just had it and I forgot it. My brain
I
is
can bring up another one real quick while you try to remember it.
okay.
Um, I feel like Coming to America is more seen as a comedy than it is a rom com, but it is a really good rom com, I think, more than people realize. It's a great Queens movie, Jackson Heights specifically. But I love Coming to America. Um, and one movie, do you remember the one you were going to say? Since I have one movie, but it's more of a
Yes.
subversion, so I would rather you
Okay.
say what you were going to say first.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days
Ah,
is
okay.
a big
Kate
one.
Hudson. Yeah.
Yeah, and Matthew McConaughey, who was like the king of romance comedies at the time. He did like a million of them.
Same with Kate
Um,
Hudson. Yeah.
right, exactly. I think they did a few together, didn't they? Other than this one, I
I
think they
don't
did
know
a.
if they did another one. I know like Kate Hudson did Raising Helen, which was what's his name?
Yeah.
John Corbett, is that his name from My Big Fat Greek Wedding? I forgot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know, and then McConaughey did I think Wedding Planner with J Lo, but I like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Um, one of the ones I feel like people hated, a movie like people hated on that I think is a subversion in the New York rom com is Materialist, and I'm in the minority of
Okay.
people who likes it more than Past Lives. And I know it's a very much colder movie. I know Past Lives is more like warm and emotional and gets people in the feels, and it captures the immigrant experience really well via a love triangle. But Materialist, the thing that I like about it, I talked about Working Girl, and Melanie Griffith is the star of Working Girl. Her daughter is Dakota Johnson. So a lot of people are like, I feel like Dakota Johnson was miscast in this movie. I don't understand why she's in this movie. I totally understand why she's in Materialist. Because to me, this is a complete subversion of rom coms, New York rom coms. And I think she is a spoiled brat, like on purpose, and showing you how privileged, like, the main characters in, like, New York rom coms are, and how the New York dating scene is basically gamified in this movie and competitive and she's kind of an awful character, honestly. And I feel like that was kind of the point of this movie, and it kind of like rubbed people the wrong way because people thought it was going to be a very conventional New York rom com, and it was not. Like, people were like, oh, I'm Team Pedro or I'm Team Chris Evans or whatever going into the movie, and then it ended up being completely deconstructing all of that. And I feel like the costumes like reflect class differences really well in that movie, and they even like there's references to Melanie Griffith's fashion in Working Girl, and I feel like it's one of those movies that like I don't want to say is like too intellectual for people because that's a bit like snobby, but I feel like some of the stuff it was going for like just totally went over people's heads. Like completely, and people were just like, this is an awful rom-com, and I'm like, that's kind of the point, is it's like not, it's trying to kind of make you feel uncomfortable at times, and it's not.
Okay, so I have a question then, and to anybody who hasn't seen the movie, close your ears. Um, the ending then, and not the ending of them in the park. No, the
No, I agree,
choice.
I get what you're saying about the ending. I feel like usually with a rom-com ending, it's like the beginning of the movie where it's a super fancy elaborate wedding where people spend a ton of money, and they purposely did not do that with the ending of Materialists. That was my takeaway of
Hmm.
that final scene.
Um,
It's the complete opposite of that. It's not this like montage, like I think of like this cute wedding where you have the best wedding dress and you spend a ton of money. It takes all the material aspects of weddings and dating out of the equation completely.
okay.
And I think yeah, that's my take on the ending. Is it a great movie? No, but I do think it's
I,
it was
here's the thing. Um, I guess this is a tough question, but do you do you see almost? Do you go, I get it when she leaves Pedro?
yeah, I feel like I totally get what the movie was going for of just like um just like totally picking apart the materialistic parts of like New York and the dating scene in general and how superficial people can be. And it was like, are there certain things that could have been tweaked? Yes. I'm with everyone else with that. If there's certain things that could be tweaked, is I don't love the movie as much. I feel like, but I don't hate the movie either. So that's my take on Materialist.
And I know this is a film thing, but uh, it, while there is a movie version within it, I can't help but the popularity and cultural sort of dominance of this, which is Sex and the City. Um,
I
you
really do
know,
not like the movies. I'm a fan of the show, and I feel like that was such a perfect ending. The the final two, the part one, part two of that show. Is there
okay.
privilege aspects of it that are dated? Yes. Did the revival need to overcorrect dramatically for them? No. It overcorrected way too hard to the point where it was trying way too hard to do so, and it just ended up being so messy as a result. And it kind of lost what made the original so great. And don't was and it was honestly hard to watch for a lot of people at times, and it was kind of a train wreck watch. And even the I can't believe I am saying this, but I watched all of the revival, and it's like I can't believe they went certain places they did with it. It's absolutely absurd. Like if
Oh,
just
you watched the new thing, right? The yeah,
yeah,
what's it called again?
and just like that is the revival.
And just like that, that was terrible.
Yeah, it was like there's certain things again. It was trying way too hard to overcorrect for the criticisms of the original series of that it's a white privileged perspective that's could have done better of it being more inclusive to the queer community, and it overcorrects that way too hard. And it's like, don't get me wrong, it is privilege. I mean, she is living a lifestyle most people don't, and but I like it for what it is. I like the original ending. I never needed the movies. I never needed the revival. I really dislike the movies, even though I've seen both of them. The second one's way worse than the first, but the
Yeah, the
first,
second one, I'm not kidding, is like almost unwatchable.
Though the one thing I do like about the first movie is I really like the New York Public Library in it. It's used somewhat well, and then there's like a really good like New Year's Eve scene in it. But like, did I hate as a fan of the original series, I hate certain character choices they made in the movies, and I hate certain character choices they made in the show, and it pisses me off so much. But anyways, that's my short rant without getting too much into the TV show.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm watching the original show for the first time actually. That's why I brought it up. It
Oh
made me think
boy.
of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm in the minority of people. Well, actually some people agree with my take, some people don't. I am a Miranda. However, the character who I think has the best arc is Charlotte, and you'll understand what I mean when you watch more of it.
Okay,
And you'll let me know who your favorite character is and if you agree or not with what I'm saying by the end. But yeah,
okay.
that's my quick take without spoiling anything. Um, we haven't talked about Queens too much. There's a couple Queens movies that I could mention. I talked about Coming to America. I feel like another good Queens movie is The Wiz, even though that is like a fantastical version of New York.
Mm,
It starts off in Queens with the Munchkin Land and Dorothy, played by Diana Ross. Um, it is living in. Well, actually, no. She lives in Harlem. Munchkin Land is in Queens. And then I think they go to Coney Island at one point, since I think that's where the Tin Man is. And then the New
yeah,
York Public Library is where the Lion is. And the Emerald City is the World Trade Center. And one of the most scary sequences of a subway is in The Wiz. For me, that is nightmare fuel. That sequence, if you've seen it, so
yes,
bizarre. Another movie that's nightmare fuel in regards to the subway is Jacob's Ladder. The opening of Jacob's Ladder, oof. Um, but yeah, getting back to the topic of Queens, I also like Spider-Man: Homecoming. That's to me, I feel like the best New York movie of all the Spider-Man movies. Um, you get to see Governor's Island, you get to see the Staten Island Ferry, you get to see Coney Island as well at the very end, and then I feel like it captures like Queens really well.
yeah.
And
Oh, I love it. Um, I grew up in Queens, and I actually lived in three places in Queens. One Flushing near Met Stadium, and then Whitestone, and then Jamaica Avenue, and then I left Queens. So I know my way around. There are many different places, and yeah, you're right. It definitely got it down pretty well. Surprisingly, the movie I would choose for Queens um, is also in that genre of fantasy-esque science, like a science fiction fantasy sort of, and that is Men in Black.
mm,
Uh, I love its depiction of Flushing Park and how it says, because growing up, you always wonder, I'm like, what are those? What are with those tall buildings and the globe and everything? I always wondered, and its answer in the movie is pretty funny, which is that they're actually flying saucers that can come up and fly away. And so I was always like, wow, that's really cool. I wonder if that's true or not. Um, and it shows a great depiction of Queens traffic, how they get stuck under. And the way to get onto that is by having your car flip over and speed right through with your science fiction alien car. Um, Another movie that has Queens. What's the one I was thinking of? Um, oh my God. Um, well, I know most of Shaft takes place in Queens,
okay,
actually, which is a has great, song to it, and uh, it goes into that blaxploitation uh, genre.
Yeah. We haven't talked about Bronx too much. I haven't seen too many Bronx movies. Um, is there any that come to mind for you?
Uh, Easily, A Bronx Tale is the big
Yeah,
one.
that's the one I hear the most
The
out of
Chess
Rumble in the
Palminteri.
Bronx.
Rumble in the Bronx is a lot of fun, Jackie Chan. Uh, which is funny because it doesn't actually isn't actually filmed in Bronx, but that's okay. Uh, you know, it is what it is. Um,
And
the
then,
beginning.
no,
What
you
were you
go.
gonna say?
No, you go. You go.
Oh, the beginning of the Warriors is in the Bronx. That
I was gonna say that as well.
meeting in
Yeah,
that Cyrus has is the Bronx, and that does a lot because it shows Van Cortlandt Park, which is the famous park in the Bronx.
it's one of the top five biggest parks in New York City. I think people assume Central Park is in the top five biggest parks, but it's not. Flushing, Meadows Park, which you said since you mentioned like living near Flushing, that's one of the parks that's one of the biggest, and then Van Cortlandt is, and then I forgot what the other three were. But yeah, um, I think Staten Island. I mentioned Working Girl earlier. King of Staten Island is not the best movie, but I do think it gets some aspects in New York really well. Pete Davidson in real life and in the movie lost his father to 9/11, so I thought that was an
Right.
interesting thing that the movie explores. Um, yeah.
Yeah, myself, I'm not actually too familiar with films from Staten Island. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, it's kind of
well,
seen as the lesser for of the boroughs, so it's not many movies are going to be taking place there for that reason.
yeah, like yeah, it's not one that I'm too
Yeah, to
familiar
me,
with.
Working Girl is to me probably the best by a landslide. Like not
Yeah,
even
I'm
close.
thinking about. I'm thinking about. I'm like, I don't really know. Kingston on I have seen. Is the big one. Um, yeah, that's sorry. To
No
anybody
worries.
in
No,
Staten
you don't need
Island.
to say more on that. Um, is there like um I was gonna say something I forgot to mention earlier when we were kind of talking about romance movies is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I feel like people don't view it as a New York movie, but it is. It's like you see the Long
It
Island
is a New York
Railroad
movie.
and they go to
Yes.
Montauk, and it's arguably the best use of Montauk in a movie ever. So I count it as a New
And
York movie.
it does take. There is a scene, and I know it because my apartment is in that scene. Uh, which is in New York City at the end of the movie when he actually meets Elijah Wood's character for the first time they talk. Their doctor's office is filmed in my apartment complex in Manhattan,
Cool. Um,
so it takes place within the
yeah, no,
metric of
I
New York
definitely
City.
count that as a New York movie. In regards
Also,
to like family, oh wait, continue.
sorry, one movie that we didn't bring up, but it is a New York movie, and the reason why it's so forgotten as a New York movie because it takes place in literally one location, one room, and that's 12 Angry Men.
I love 12 Angry Men. That's one of the best movies of all time. Or best movies set in like one location mostly. Period. Um, I love that movie. I was friends with someone who I think her grandpa wrote 12 Angry Men, and I was like, and I remember being blown away when I found that out when I was younger. I don't know if
That is
had
cool.
seen the movie at the time when I found that out, or if I saw it afterwards and was like, "Whoa!" But I love 12 Angry Men. One of the best movies. Period. And it I think going on a completely different note, is there like any family friendly or like animated movies set in New York that you like?
Animated movies. That's a great question. Family movies. They're mostly like musicals and like
Would you
I
say?
love.
Oh wait, continue. Sorry.
And then the more Christmassy type movies. 34th Miracle on 34th Street.
What's
Um,
the musical ones you were thinking of?
I was thinking of On the Town. I love which has Frank Sinatra and Gene Kelly in it. New York, it's a wonderful town. They're, Marines or
Yeah, they have
they're
the
army men.
sailor hats. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
from what I
and they
recall.
come, they,
Yeah.
they meet romance and has comedy in it. I was gonna say it, but I don't know if it's a romantic comedy as much as a romantic musical slash comedy. You know, um, and that's a nice one. Family friendly. It's a family. We watch it as a family, but it's a family friendly movie. I don't know West Side Story, but uh, you know what I mean. Like as a we like it goes in and out. Uh,
Well, going in the category of musicals and family, I think Annie. Annie.
Annie.
I love Annie. Though, yeah, that's one of my favorite musicals. I forget how much I like it, and then I hear the songs, and I'm like, and then the cast is so good because you literally have Easy Street, the one scene with Carol Burnett, Bernadette Peters, and oh my god, why am I blanking on his name? Oh my god, from It and Clue and Rocky
Oh,
Horror.
oh my God. Yes, yes. This is going to kill me. And Home Alone 2. Um, uh,
Tim Curry. Tim Curry.
Tim Curry. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
Tim Curry. Yeah,
Yes.
I love that movie. It's such a good. Oh, and then you got Anne Ryan King, who we were talking about all that jazz earlier. She had a fling with, not a fling. She had a relationship with Bob Fosse. She's in Annie as well. I feel like as a kid, I didn't realize how stacked that cast was. But yeah, I love Annie, and then just them. I mean, they I mean, she's just dreaming for like a life beyond the orphanage, and then the song where she talks about like the top of the Chrysler building and stuff. Like, so there's a lot of New York
Yeah.
elements of Annie. Muppets Take Manhattan's really good.
Yes.
Um, An American Tail, if you're talking animated. My favorite. Oh, I almost forgot about Enchanted. Enchanted technically counts as a New York
Oh,
movie, but
yeah.
my favorite, I think, im- I don't know if it counts as family friendly, but at least animated is Robot Dreams. That movie is so underrated. Um,
Ooh.
that movie is so good, and not enough people have seen it. It's just about a robot and a dog that are friends, and I don't want to spoil it, but it captures just the isolation of New York City really well, and I think it's a love letter to like the 1980s specifically. It's technically, I think Neon distributed it, and it was
I was,
nominated for like best animated feature. It's super good, but yeah, that's probably like my
um,
favorite family friendly or animated New York movie.
uh, 42nd Street, I love. Um,
Oh, you're talking
anything to
musicals?
do,
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah, musicals. I said On the Town already. Uh, Again, I don't know if it's family friendly, but we watch it as a family. Guys and Dolls. Um, we already said Fame. You already said Annie. Oh, I guess Little Shop of Horrors takes place
Oh, it's a
in New
musical.
York.
Yeah, that's another good New York
Yeah,
musical. I mean, we talked about all that jazz in depth earlier. That is to me
yeah,
the quintessential Broadway movie, and I feel like younger generations don't realize or don't really know about that movie, which is crazy to me. It's like
yeah.
one of the best movies of all time. Roy Schneider, I think is how you say
Roy
his name,
Schneider.
from Jaws. He's so
Yeah,
good as Joe Gideon in the movie.
so
Um,
good.
I mentioned Anne Ryan King in in Annie earlier. She was dating Bob Fosse, so she's in it, and Bob Fosse directed it. It's very semi autobiographical. Um, it really captures um, yeah, it captures like Broadway culture really well, and I feel like it doesn't have musical numbers every second, but that's another movie I guess you can consider like a gritty take on New York. And it's just he's very self-aware and like aware of his flaws openly in this movie. And it came out
Oh,
like near the end of his life, and it's like he's very aware like he's
yeah.
like gonna pass away soon after. And it's just so it's just I love all that jazz. It's one of my favorite movies. It doesn't get talked about enough, and it's just
It's so good because for just what you said, like he's like, you know what? Yes, I am gonna die doing this, and I am going to go out, and I'm not gonna stop. My favorite scene in the movie, and we can talk about the big musical number because I want to talk about the his God, his like
all that. Yeah,
who's a great actor and a great music on Broadway star, and I was in a kid show I know about. But my favorite scene in the movie is when the nurse comes in and she opens up the curtain and the other nurse is in bed with him and he's like, what's wrong here? And she's like, what are you doing? Like, it's so on the nose about Fosse's ability to
yeah,
be so sexually aggressive and know that all the things that he's smoking and he just doesn't stop. You know that
yeah.
that's what
He's
Fosse
such a
was
fun
known for.
person, but it's like it's such a self-aware, beautiful, powerful, heartbreaking critique of himself, show
Yeah,
business, and just humanity as a whole. And it's I guess even though it counts as a musical, I guess you could say it's a deconstruction of musicals as well. Um, just like picking apart like how they're made and how the industry works. The opening sequence sets up like the Broadway auditioning scene really well. You were talking about like
yeah.
Fame earlier. That's another one where the opening number being on Broadway is so good. Um,
That song. Oh, it clicks with the whole thing too, as being on Broadway.
yeah. Um, I'm with you though on the musical sequence near the end of the movie is just super iconic, and it's just
Um, and did you get the reference of what he's editing?
oh, since isn't he editing the comedy special? Since he was editing Lenny Bruce's comedy
Yeah,
special in real life, but what's isn't who is the person who's playing? It's like a famous person playing
yes.
the comedy guy in all that jazz. I forgot who, but yeah, th-
Uh, yeah.
but yeah, that's what I said. It's a very much like like he's acknowledging like all the projects he's working on. It's it's arguably like one of the best biopics, even though he directed it himself. It's like, and he doesn't. It's Joe Gideon rather than Bob Fosse. It's really solid. Um,
I got the name. It's played by Cliff Gorman,
oh, then I don't.
who-
Okay,
who's
never mind.
okay. I was gonna say Cliff Gore. I know him.
But
he's in a lot of New York things actually.
yeah, so he's yeah, I love that movie. Just it's one of the best movies. It doesn't get talked about as much as it should in modern times. But yeah, is there any other musicals or like other types of New York movies you want to address
Um,
before we sign off?
just a couple other ones that I had. I had Mean Streets. One, Rosemary's Baby is a big one. That deals with the paranoia and loneliness. I think New York City tends to really give. I have Dressed to Kill by De Palma, which is a kind of gritty violent film. It becomes gritty when it's in the subway scenes. If you see in the movie, um, The two heroes are a 13-year-old and a prostitute. So take that with what you can. Uh, Raising Victor Vargas, I have on honorable mention. I don't know if you know that one.
No, I don't.
It's a great movie about this kid. He lives with his grandmother and his brother, and he deals. He's it's a, like a coming of age story about he thinks being a player is the way to go about it until he meets this girl who is very protective of her, I should say, so very self-respective, and he's very macho, and because he doesn't have a father figure to sort of guide him, so he only sees what he sees on the street and how to talk to women, approach them, whatever. So he goes up to her, and she's like, if you're gonna be like this, I don't want to be with you, and then he changes along the way. Great story, highly recommend. Um, Goodfellas, that takes place in Queens. It starts off in Queens and then, actually stays in Queens. If you think about it, he lives in Queens throughout the movie, um, which is based on a true story, which, based on the book Wise Guys. Going back to Sean Baker, Takeout, which is a great movie
So
about,
that's early in his career, like 2004.
yeah, yeah, which is about it's a half immigrant, half living story because the whole point is he told me about this. He says a lot of the people working in that industry were illegal, and so they kind of get taken advantage of by the people around them and don't make a lot of money in order to stay in the country, which isn't very fair.
His
Uh,
co-director for that film made a movie a couple years ago that kind of went under the radar that Sean Baker directed, called Left-Handed Girl, that I really liked. And not a lot of people saw it, but like it's on Netflix. But so I'm glad you gave Takeout a shout out, um, since that's like earlier in his career, so it doesn't get talked about as much as his later movies. Any other things you want to mention real quick?
the big one. It's not a rom-com, but there's a little bit of romance to it. It's kind of funny, but it is a comedy. It's a comedy drama, which is Francis Ha.
Oh, I love
Um,
Frances Ha. I can't believe we didn't mention that. Yes,
so
I
good,
love Greta
so good.
Gerwig in that movie. Oh my god,
Yes.
yes.
Her other film that she did with her husband.
She co-wrote
What?
Frances Ha too, like
Yes,
not just starring in it.
yes.
I think a lot of people don't
Mm,
realize that.
right, right. You know, half of Marriage Stories
Yep,
in New
and there's
York,
a bar
which
that I used to pass by a lot. That's near Washington Square. Yep.
um what's it called? Which in the movie he's singing a Sondheim song from Company, and Company is a musical that takes place in New York, which is great. Being Alive is one of the songs.
Um,
It's fantastic.
Going back to Sondheim, since we talked about West Side Story briefly earlier, um, do you like both versions of West Side Story or no?
I do.
Me,
I do for different reasons.
I'm in the minority who likes the Spielberg version more than the original, and since they actually cast like actual Hispanic people in the roles, unlike the original, and then I think the other thing, I actually think it's one of Spielberg's best movies, period, which I know is like a
Yes,
hot take.
agreed.
I
No, no,
love
no, no.
it.
It is so um like you almost go like the sweeping shot when they walk into the gym.
Oh,
I'm
that's a
I'm
great
going to
sequence.
argue I
Yes.
think it's better in Spielberg's than the original. Um, and one of the things that I like about the newer one um, is it's a film. It's an actual film. While I think I get what the original was doing, it feels very stagey. It's very set within the parameters every time they go to a location, while there's that sweeping um, whimsicalness in the film. I have some critiques. Like I think certain songs work better in timing in the original.
Okay.
I tend to like Living in America more in the original than in the new one. Um,
This ensemble though is great. It's super solid.
yeah, yeah.
I
Um,
always was like, I can't believe, like, again, awards don't matter, but like when they weren't nominated for like the SAG awards, I was like, this is stupid. I'm like, that's so ridiculous. Um,
I like the original Bernardo also, to be honest.
okay,
Uh, I think he needed a little more bravado.
okay,
And while I thought he did very well, he he just he needed to look a little. I get what they were doing. I know exactly what they're doing. I'm like, okay, he wouldn't look like that because he's supposed to play a kid on the street. But I like um, the original with Rick, Riff, uh, Tony's best friend.
gotcha.
What's his name?
I think it's Rick or Riff.
Riff. Yeah, Riff. He just
Yeah, Riff.
he's got like he had this like uh almost gusto about him that
You don't like
while
Mike Feist as much?
Mike Feist did all the musical numbers better. I will say he did all the musical numbers better than the original, but he didn't have that gusto, that I'm gonna follow you sort of leadership that the original had.
Okay. Any other quick shout outs before we wrap up or no?
And Devil Wears Prada.
Oh, true. Devil Wears Prada is great. I feel like it does a really good job of showing you the life of a sister in New York City. That's a lot of what a lot of people live that reality, and it sucks. And like it just being in that position sucks. And I feel the way that movie captures the work culture in New York is really solid. I think it's a very underrated screenplay as a whole. Devil Wears Prada. Yeah, it's such a solid movie. I was when when I rewatched it before the new one came out, I was saying it's such a solid satire that exaggerates just like how toxic and fast paced like the workplace can be in New York City, and that's honestly kind of a reality. Even
Yeah,
though it is exaggerated a bit. And I think the tonal shifts in the movie are like really well executed. And I think the arc is very straightforward, but it's very like logical and it makes sense. And I don't think it gets enough credit as a screenplay. Yeah,
yeah.
a lot of people have like
No,
transitional jobs like that.
true, true. And you feel compelled to be like the culture around you in order to get ahead, and it shows that it's easy to lose yourself.
And I think it's one of the best like antagonists, Miranda Priestley, and I love the way she's like she's interwoven into the narrative as a whole.
Yeah, and another film that you could definitely see influence that character specifically. The one that's like kind of your friend, but not really your friend, who also critiques you and
Yeah.
is your mentor, is Sweet Smell of Success. You know what I mean? This character who, kind of has you. Anytime you veer off, is like, hey, don't forget, like you're in my shadow type. Uh, and while also you need them to kind of climb the corporate ladder, so you're always like at their feet in hand, and kind of the same trajectory where you're like, do I want to do that forever or do I want to go my own path? is one that I think other people should see.
Gotcha. I think some people, since I mentioned Working Girl in depth earlier, some people think that Devil Wears Prada is influenced by Working Girl, and you can't have Devil Wears Prada without Working Girl, um, which I think is interesting. Um, so that's another reason, another way, reason to appreciate Working Girl as a whole and proving how truly influential it is, even though it doesn't get enough credit for that. I think I'm gonna wrap up now, unless you have like
Okay.
a quick shout out. Are you okay with that?
Um, yeah, yeah, a lot of these directors, you can't go through everything, but you'll if anyone we talked about, you'll see that they have a lot of filmography that is
Yeah.
takes place in similar places,
Yeah, we covered a
So
lot.
yeah,
I hope
yeah.
everyone had fun listening to Josh and I discuss New York movies. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and leave comments sharing your favorite New York movies. If you'd like to see more content from me, I post short movie reviews on this YouTube channel as well as on TikTok and Instagram. And I've recently done out of the theater reactions for other New York movies like Spider Man Brand New Day and One Night Only. The next Red Carpet Talk live stream will be next weekend, covering Disney's D23 convention. There's going to be a lot of news that comes out of that. And please let me know what other topics you want to see me cover next. And Josh, is there anything you want to plug real quick?
Um, no, I don't really have a lot going on.
No worries.
You could just find me on Twitter at the Cinema Kid,
And
one word,
Letterbox as well.
letterbox as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
which which if you go on my Twitter, it's on my uh header, so you can click on that, and you can see all my
It's the
reviews to
with two
anything I
E's.
see. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, the with
Thank you
two
very
E's.
much, Sam.
Yeah, no worries. Bye, everyone.